Welcome to the Gym Owners Business Podcast with Mel Tempest. The Gym Owners Business Podcast is proudly supported and sponsored by Thomas Plummer, MyZone, Creative Fitness Marketing and All Smiles Creative. The Gym Owners Business Podcast is part of the Gym Owners Business Network, which is the industry's go-to online hub designed to better service the needs of fitness business owners. The Gym Owners Business Network is currently finalising foundation memberships, so if you're a fitness business that would like to gain valuable and extensive exposure to the Australian and global fitness industries, then head to gymownersbusinessnetwork.net to find out more.
Well, good afternoon. It's Mel Tempest from the Gym Owners Business Podcast and Network. And today I'm speaking to Cheye Lincoln Hill from Goldfields, Oasis in Kalgoorlie. How are you today?
I am absolutely fantastic, Mel. How are you?
I'm awesome. And I'm sure it's a little bit warmer over there in Perth as opposed to cold Ballarat.
Oh, it's actually hitting the chilly temperatures here. It was about 9 degrees overnight, so we're starting to feel it here over the Westway as well.
Oh, well, that makes me feel better. It certainly does. Now, listen, you run an amazing older adults program over there in Perth. And so what I wanted to do today was to give some of our club owners who are listening some tips from your successful program. So can you please tell me, how did you actually start the older adults program? Because this is a big market that we are not tapping into.
Yeah, it's a ginormous market. And I think that I'll preface it by saying I think the industry in itself has kind of put their hands up and waved the white flag and just gone, look, we can't successfully go after the market that's over 40. And you can even see with the models that are opening up, whether it be your boutiques or your smaller type of anytime 24/7 gyms, they've still targeted exactly the same demographic of the 18s to 39s. And running a local government rec centre and also owning a mid-market fitness facility, saw the need to reposition ourselves to some degree, and knowing that there is a big market out there that is older. I don't like to use the term seniors, because look, the average 50 or 60-year-old doesn't see themselves as old at all, and I think that we fall into the trap of thinking that they're incapable or too old to participate in the majority of activities that we do, which is not the case. So yeah, we decided to, I guess, have a little bit of a shift in our thinking entirely, and it wasn't just about having an older adults program. It was about just thinking about everything that we did on a day-to-day basis in the centre to be more inclusive of people that are a little bit older, because if you're 50 years of age now, you're not old at all, and yet if you look at the industry in terms of the type of staff that we employ, the use of our marketing material, the equipment, the layout, it's all relatively designed for someone young. So we set about, I guess, a process of being more inclusive as a centre to people who are a little bit older. And Kalgoorlie is quite a challenge. It's a young demographic. The average age of the population is 31, which is 10 years younger than the national average. So there's a tough market out there to crack. So what we did was we first sought to look at other avenues to fund some of these programs. Something we don't do as club owners is we're always on the hamster wheel thinking about, obviously, leads, sales, retention. We're not thinking necessarily outside the box or thinking of a way so we can attract new market or bring in new funding. And so we actually aligned ourselves with some other local operators, physios, chiros, and mining companies, and they chucked in some dosh for us to get the program started. And so essentially put it out to market, and it worked. And not only that, it fed in different type of people, and we kind of got a whole bunch of steamroll referral business out of that, and it just made us really take stock and look at what we did, and because of that we've had some big wins, and not just in our adults program, but like for example our virtual program. An interesting fact that I think it's 60% of the people in our centre that use virtual are over the age of 40 when we did our demo breakdown. And that was a huge win for us, knowing that the virtual fitness component of it was actually being used by our older demographic. Just meant we could expand that virtual program out at, very low cost. And there was a lot of things, a lot of little things, making sure that we had staff that reflected the needs of older adults. I mean, if you look at the average commercial gym these days that's staffed, the majority of the time it's, an 18-year-old at reception, the PTs are fresh out of college. They're very young, and so there's a generation gap. I mean, I turned 40 this year, and I work with a bunch of millennials, and I feel the generation gap. So I'm thinking of someone who's 55 or 60. It's so important to have someone who doesn't necessarily reflect their age, but represents their values. And so when somebody comes in and visits your centre, it's absolutely critical that your staff, if they are young, are trained correctly on communicating with people who are older and be able to reflect some of those values back, and that's super important. I know I can go off on tangents and talk too long, so feel free to come back in.
That's okay. I was actually enjoying listening to what you said, and I have to agree with the virtual experience. One of the things that we noticed in our club is the high majority of those that attend our virtual classes are over 40, and yeah, and isn't that incredible? And I saw this stat, and because I have to be honest with you, it's obviously like most clubs, we have cameras and that in our club, and sometimes we check in on our club, late at night to see what's going on, make sure everything's okay, and we often see the older people or over 40s in there doing yoga on a Saturday night at 10 o'clock. And people go, no way. I go, absolutely. It's absolutely incredible. And so what that made me do as a club owner was change the way that I marketed the virtual classes. Because here I am thinking, all these young guys are going to come along and do Gillian Michaels, and they're going to do Beachbody, and they're going to do this, and they're going to do that. And I totally had it wrong.
Yep.
The younger generation want to be with their own people working out in a live environment. Mm-hmm. And the older, more mature market who don't need to have their hand held, okay, like the younger generation, and I mean that in a positive way, I'm more than happy to rock up on a Saturday night or on a Sunday afternoon and do virtual classes. And so what we did to make it easier for them was, instead of teaching them the technology of how to turn virtual on, put the projector there, we actually scheduled those style of programs, and we said, here's your timetable. All you got to do is walk into the club and it's going to start on the projector for you. And they just love it. They just love it, Cheye. And I just think that we are undermining the way that they think. And you're right. We assume that they all have walking frames and they're retired and they're going to play golf. And that most certainly is not what our over 40s and our over 50s are doing. So I definitely agree with the virtual. What I would love to know is, though, you said that you got aligned with financial support from physios and other health services. How did you do that, though?
Yeah, it took a bit of effort. First and foremost, we contacted them and established a working group, because we've all got skin in the game. I mean, the physios, nutritionists, chiropractors, they've all got a vested interest in getting people moving. And so essentially we formed a working group that met up a couple of times, first and foremost. And I think we had someone from the Department of Sport and Rec involved as well to, work out how we could score some money. And from that, we just kind of chatted about the issues that we're all facing in terms of, hitting that market and sending the right message, and what things would be age appropriate, what things wouldn't be. And it all came from there. So there was probably 3 to 6 months of planning in it, and that's super important. You can't just change a poster or put on a seniors time. I mean, I see this all the time. You can't just change a poster or put on a group class and call it seniors and think that that's actually addressing the issue of older adults exercising. It couldn't be further from. So we planned it, we thought about it, and then we basically just then engaged that market through the channels that, to be honest, were no different to how we'd normally market, through our social media avenues, referral marketing. I remember when I first entered the industry, and this is kind of the difference. When when I first in the industry 20 years ago, obviously the industry was moving away from paid in full memberships to direct debit memberships. And at that point in time, the older market, the 50-year-old market, didn't have bank accounts in the traditional sense. So we just assumed that 50 to 50-year-olds just didn't join gyms to some degree, or they paid in cash. And so we kind of just, as an industry, just kept doing that, thinking that, oh, well, the average older person, doesn't do direct debit. But, I mean, the average person who's, say 60, has grown up with fitness facilities. I mean, fitness facilities now have been around since, the early 80s. So they've started with Jane Fonda and Aerobics Oz Style and all that type of stuff. So fitness and commercial fitness facilities are just ingrained into our psyche. So we treated it no differently. We didn't do anything, overly interesting with our marketing, apart from obviously push it through social media, and we made sure that we used the right imagery, which was super important, and the right language. That they're probably the two main things, but our channels that we used were no different to any other. Like I hear all the time people say, oh, they visit their doctor's surgeries and that type of stuff. Well, the average person is finding out where things are, whether they're 18 or 50, pretty much in the same way. I mean, so yeah, we didn't do anything from a marketing perspective any differently. We just made sure that we spoke to and aligned ourselves with people who had the same vested interests in us and worked together to achieve that. So that's kind of been how it's worked. And now, although we have programs as such, we don't even see it as seniors programs. It's more so just a philosophy of when someone's 18 or 40 or 60, that we have the products and services that meet their needs. And at the moment, as an industry, I think that realistically we're still only tapping into the 18 to 40-year-old market in what we do. And so there's, I think for the mid-market clubs, the ones that are trying to be kind of the all things to all people, obviously, we've had that market share eroded quite a lot with boutiques and 24-hour models, and we've just been slow to adapt. And there's a huge opportunity there to kind of reposition ourselves and actually hit that slightly older market, which as you know, Mel, they stay a lot longer. They spend more money, and that's what we want from our members, right? We want them to stay longer, spend more money, and be loyal. And they've got all those three things there. But instead, as club owners, we always revert back to the trusted, same old stuff that we always do: sell more, advertise more, market more, instead of to some degree repositioning ourselves and taking that risk, which you've got to be a risk taker, and actually go after those guys. So yeah, hope that made sense.
I mean, I couldn't imagine being in business and not being a risk taker. I mean, I think that's the only way to test the market out. And if you can live with the worst possible scenario, then why wouldn't you just take a little bit of risk? I agree with you. It's really funny because as you were talking, I was sitting here thinking how the youngest person that attends our older adults class is in their late 60s. Everybody else under that age group attends our normal group programming and classes. I've got ladies in their 60s on a Monday night at 5:30 p.m. prime time slot that come to combat classes, and there's about 45 or 50 people in those classes. We've got ladies and gents in those age groups that come to cycle. I've got two older. I have to tell you this. We've got two older gentlemen at the moment. One is 69 and one is 75 that have entered our My Zone challenge, and they are the top two at the moment.
There you go. Yeah.
And they're in all the classes that the young people are in. I just think that we just need to look at things differently, and we just need to say age is nothing. It's just something that's on your birth certificate. It's just something that you remind yourself of every now and then. It doesn't matter what age you are. You're capable of attending all of the group programming that's in the classes on your timetable, providing that your trainers are educated to make options available to different age groups. You should be able to have 40 or 50 people in a group fitness room, and you should be able to have a trainer on stage that is able to teach to 3 different demographics. That's probably the most important skill that club owners need to make sure that their trainers have got in the clubs to meet the different age groups that are attending the classes.
Yeah, couldn't agree more, Mel. And extending beyond that, it's from first point of entry. Really, it's what happens when they enter your club, how the club feels. When they walk onto the gym floor, whether there's somebody who said hello to them. I mean, nothing we don't already know. But just those little things that make people feel welcome, whether they're 18 or 50. But it's funny though that as I get older as well, I appreciate those things more. And so it's having those things in your centre. And as you said, with group fitness classes, if they're attending live classes, having the instructors capable of not just delivering a DVD copy of what they've learned, if they're teaching pre-choreographed routines, but having the ability to be able to connect from a coaching perspective as well, to make sure that those that if they are having previous injuries or any mobility issues, they can still do it. But you hit the nail on the head when you mentioned that most of the standard classes we've got on the timetable are frequented by people who are 50, 60, 70. The typical seniors programs essentially are just rehashes of low impact aerobic classes.
Oh, of course they are.
With a different title. So, I don't even necessarily see the value sometimes in those, except from maybe a marketing proposition. But otherwise, it's just about having a wholesale approach to engaging, that slightly older market. So, it's such a broad issue to discuss as well. So, but yeah, we're trying our best.
What are three tips? So let's say I'm a club owner. I'm thinking about putting on a specific class on the group fitness timetable that is for people over 50. What are three tips that you would say you have to do these to make it work?
Okay, one, I wouldn't put on one specific class. That would be my first tip. I would actually run it as a program. So whether it be 6, 8, 12 weeks, so I'd actually run it as a specific targeted program as opposed to a particular class. It's just easier that way. And engage. 2 would be engage other stakeholders. Don't try and just do it yourself. Speak to the people who are allied with yourself, whether it be physios, nutritionists, aged care facilities, community centres, all those other people who are in that game, and get them aligned and get them on board, because you're going to be able to leverage off those networks as well and just put the word out. And you're not really doing anything in terms of the class that's any different. You're just being able to reach out to those networks a little bit better. And 3 is to make sure that every part of what you're doing in your club is reflecting the values of the people that walk through your door, and that's the fundamental difference. If I was to walk into most fitness facilities at a peak hour on a Monday night, no offence, but I would normally see an 18-year-old person at the counter, probably chewing gum on the phone. I mean, speaking to somebody, not necessarily engaging with the person that comes in, and that would just echo throughout, the entire member experience. So that would be the most important thing, is that we need to have our facility reflect the values of the people who are walking through our door. It's a complex issue to fix, but that would be my third tip, so to speak. Hope that made sense.
It certainly does. So do you have one person that looks after your program in your club, or does your team look after it?
Yeah, our health and fitness team leader works primarily is our key driver with our programs coordinator, and so they are the 2 kind of key drivers of it. But more importantly, in terms of our kind of management structure, so to speak, it's fairly flat. So something that we do in the fitness industry, which I don't understand, is that we tend to act a little bit in silos, in that we see, our reception staff do our reception roles and PT does their roles, and we kind of don't do things like that. We keep it flat, and we are completely aware that what happens on the desk is going to impact, our overall member retention, in the same way that what happens on the gym floor is going to do it, in the same way that group fitness is. So essentially, when we start a program like this, that our reception team is involved, our PT team is involved, our group fitness team is involved to make sure that works and there's an understanding of it. So, I've kind of forgotten the question, but
that's okay. No. I sort of said to you, does one person or does the team look after it? And I agree with you. Multi-skilling staff are the success to your club. That's what we do in our club. Who's ever rostered on the front desk is not just the person that greets and meets and picks up the phone, but they're also the person that has to empty the rubbish bins, or the person that has to sell PT, or go vacuum the room. We have what we call in our club flatline management, irrespective of your education. I don't care how long you've been in the industry, everybody's role is the same. That's how we run our club. That's how we run the club. So can I just ask you? So I'm just curious to know, with your older adults, people coming in, is that included in a membership, or do you charge separate? Can they come as a casual user to the classes?
Yeah, we have basically an older adults membership, which is if you're over 50. I think you get about $5 a week less, or whatever it is. So it moves a little bit of a barrier to entry. In terms of, you can pay casually if you like, but it is primarily designed essentially as a membership seller for us. That's where we really want to go with it. And so you can pay casually, or you can join as part of the program. But even the program is sold as like a 3-month membership basis or a 2-month membership basis. So you can do one of each, but we kind of price it in a way that is relatively cost prohibitive. I think it's, $13 a week or something, $12 a week, which I reckon we underprice, in all honesty. But it does the job. It pulls its weight, that's for sure.
I think every club owner in Australia undervalues themselves. I think that we all don't charge enough, and I think that the problem with the industry is that we're all in fear of missing out, and we're all in fear of what smaller boutiques are doing. I think that's the problem with the industry at the moment. But that, of course, is another podcast. No doubt about that. Just one last question before we wrap it up today. When you do sponsored ads, and I assume that you do sponsored ads on Facebook, do you go in and just target your 45 and over demographic with your ads?
No, absolutely not, because the kids are also your advocates. So we actually we try and be smart in our language. So if we're running a sponsored ad, we'll say something like great for this age group, and mums or dads share like blah blah blah. So I've found sometimes when you're targeting, you kind of get a bit too narrow. So we just did it as a general one, knowing that if someone who's 20 has got a parent or an older brother or older sister, that they all inform them. So didn't want to cut off our nose to spite our face on that one. But we're only spending $50-$70 for a sponsored ad, so it wasn't all that much. And we're kind of lucky in Kalgoorlie from a marketing point of view in that we're exceptionally honest. We've got 35,000 people that can't go anywhere because we're 500 k's from any other town. So we're kind of lucky in that respect, in that we're not kind of having other messages put in other people's faces. So that's one of the advantages of being regional. Hey, Mel?
It is. You don't have to compete too hard. Although in saying that, Cheye, we have I think it's now over 76 fitness facilities in a community of 100,000.
That is a lot of people. That is a lot of people going after them.
Yeah, it is a lot of people. I just wonder sometimes how many of them are actually qualified. Again, another podcast. But anyway, look, I've had a great time speaking to you today. Now, if there's any club owners out there that would like to get in touch with you and ask you, some more questions, where's the best place to do that?
You can email me, which is cheye.hill@goldfieldsoasis.com.au. You can add me on Facebook or LinkedIn. Just look up Cheye, Cheye, Hill. Facebook or LinkedIn. That's probably the easiest way.
Sounds like an awesome plan. Thank you very much for your time today. I picked up some tips off you, and I'll certainly be going back into the club this afternoon to have a chat to my team. Again, Cheye's details will be in the bottom of our podcast, and we thank you for your time today.
Thanks, Amal. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.